Stay tuned for urban legends to ghostly tales of the paranormal, because now it's time for
Message on the Wall.
This is Message on the Wall and how to detect a witch. When religion changed, there wasn't room for any other way of thinking, and so pagan beliefs had to be eradicated, with anyone going against the doctrine of the Pope being called heretics. Some popes more than others set out on a mission to wipe out heresy, which meant sporadic sprees of witch hunting in which thousands were tortured and killed. Over time, a way to detect a witch was established. A pamphlet setting out ways to prove someone of being a witch, entitled Hammer of the Witches, was published in 1486, written by Jacob Sprenger and Heinrich Kramer, two German inquisitors of a Dominican order. For the next 300 years it was used by witch-finders as a reference in their persecutions. Its Latin name, Malleus Maleficarum, was very popular, and with the printing press coming into use by the mid-15th century, this allowed such publications to quickly spread throughout Europe. A papal bull issued by Pope Innocent VIII urged the Bishop of Strasbourg, Albrecht von Bayern, to assist the inquisitors in rooting out any heresy, with threats of excommunication and the wrath of God and the apostles Peter and Paul should anyone oppose them. The bull was added to the book to give it credence, though it was not meant to be an introduction to the publication. Although it was supposedly banned by the Catholic Church in 1490, it continued to go into print, and still today there is a translated version available. Other publications came along, such as Demonology, written by King James VI of Scotland, 6 years before coming to the English throne, setting out a precedence on how someone should be proved a witch. The king was an advocate of witch swimming, though he may have been ahead of his time in some of his theories. Not believing all confessions, some being delusions, especially when describing the mode of transport, being anything from a bale of hay to an assortment of flying animals, James believed that witches, with the aid of the devil, travelled by means of the spirit leaving the body as it does in death, what we know today as astral travel. It being a man's world, James also came to the conclusion that more women than men were witches due to their frailness, and so were more easily entrapped by the devil, the core of this belief stemming from Eve and the apple. Demonology by King James, and also Discovery of the Witches by Matthew Hopkins, one of the most well-known witchfinders, who dubbed himself Witchfinder General, are still in publication. Where so-called witches had been sought out for remedies and to help with healing afflictions, it was the church that put the fear of witches and witchcraft into the minds of people. Even the Bible had its say on the matter in Exodus 12:18, with "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." The witch trials spread throughout Europe, with those accused confessing their guilt, usually through means of torture. It was believed the devil left a mark on a witch in a kiss to seal the pact. Sometimes the mark being invisible, it was later instated that any raised mark, mole, wart or flea bite was a form of teat where the devil's imps had suckled on the witch's blood. An accused witch would be stripped naked and shaved of all hair, so no marks could be hidden. Often this humiliating practice being done in public. If no such marks were found, then pinpricking would be incorporated, as the devil's mark left the area insensitive. During these times, people made a living from being pinprickers, sometimes receiving a bonus if the witch was found guilty, and so they were not averse to using tools where the needle would draw back into the handle, so the victim would appear to feel no pain. odd behaviour was also called into question, with witnesses coming forward with the most bizarre stories of what they had seen the accused do and say. Keeping a cat, especially if it was black, or any other form of pet for that matter, would go against someone accused of being a witch, the witches sending these animals out to spy on their neighbours. For some, a confession, no matter how it was got, was enough, as there was also the swimming of witches. Placing them in a body of water, the guilty would float, as the water would reject them and their evil ways. These spates of witch hunts took the lives of hundreds to thousands at a time, with some dying from the means of the torture. Execution was mainly by fire to cleanse the soul, with those being hanged prior to the burning being more lucky. In countries such as Africa, the witch hunts still continue, with those accused being hunted and terrorised. It's believed witches can harm crops, cattle and people, just as it was in Europe's medieval times, dancing naked in cemeteries and digging up graves to eat the flesh of the dead. The last mass witch trial to take place in Europe was in Poland in 1783, with 6 executions, while the last trial in the United Kingdom occurred in 1944, when Ellen Duncan, a spiritualist medium, was thought to be giving away secrets to the Germans during the Second World War. Her trial, and being charged under the British Witchcraft Act of 1735 for fraudulent witchcraft in claiming to talk to spirits, found her sentenced to 9 months in prison. The last recognised witch trial to take place in America was in 1878, known as the Ipswich witch trial, named after the town of the accuser, Lucretia Brown, as the trial itself took place 12 miles away in Salem, Massachusetts. Brown claimed that an injury to her spine, being healed through Christian Science, was hampered by David Spofford through the power of his mind. The case was dismissed by the judge. And now you know how to detect a witch. Apart from the broomstick, that is. You have been listening to Message on the Wall, brought to you in association with Paranormal Parodies. You can find Paranormal Parodies at paranormal-parodies.com.